All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I am here with Goose, Heck, Gabe, and a special guest, family friend, Will Rodriguez.
Hey guys, what's going on?
What's up, man? This is awesome. So, Will is tuning in from North Carolina, and he is joining us as a guest member just to give us a little input on his perspective on life in general. And the questions that we ask is kind of the same format as we normally do with the normal crew. So with that being said, if you're new, we have a new podcast episode readily available every Tuesday morning. Episode number 34 is titled Perseverance. In this episode, we discuss why some people persevere and others don't. Our stories of perseverance, we discuss whether or not perseverance is connected to goal setting, how to teach kids perseverance, its value, and our outlook on continuing the path to accomplishing our goals. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Newt Gingrich and John D. Rockefeller. So, yes, don't forget to download and subscribe. We are kicking this off with a definition from dictionary.com, and of course, we will define the word perseverance. Perseverance, steady persistence in a course of action, a purpose, a state, etc., especially in spite of difficulties, obstacles, or discouragement. That's pretty much spot on, right? All right.
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Will?
Will, do you like that definition?
No, I did. The first word that came up to my mind is determination.
Yes.
When you're very persistent, just you have a purpose. So yeah, determination is probably the first word that I thought of.
Absolutely. Persistence and consistent. What do you call it? Persistency and consistency.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so let's start off with a story. I got this one from wowforyou.com, and is written by Byron Pulsifier, and it's titled "Success Comes to Those Who Persevere." And I actually grabbed this excerpt that the author was giving an example for walking as a baby. So this isn't the whole article, but you can go and read that at wowforyou.com. So the excerpt I grabbed was what happens to our perseverance as we age. He says, there are even more examples of your ability to persevere all through your childhood and teenage years. So what happens to adults that seems to dissuade them from keeping the same workable and necessary attitude and behavior in later years? Sometimes we're conditioned by our upbringing either through observing the attitudes of our parents or from our peers. Some of this conditioning occurs through the subconscious level and is assimilated without even recognizing that we have adopted a new attitude and therefore a new behavior. If we see and observe other individuals that are around us say that they cannot do something or learn something, or that they tried and failed and simply gave up, we tend to think that this is a normal behavior. So he gave the example of babies walking or learning to walk, right? And he said, he posed a classic question, which I think we've all came across when we talk about perseverance and like Will said, having a purpose and continuing on with that, persistency. What's the difference between a baby continuing to try to walk, when a child goes from crawling to walking, and an adult just simply giving up on something, right? And it's just that classic question, what's the difference? What dissuades them? And he kind of gives brief explanation of this could be, their upbringing. It's basically their conditioning. Yeah. And one of my favorite authors, Bob Proctor, he talks about paradigm shifts. And paradigm shifts are basically our conditioning. So it's how we think. Our environment creates that paradigm for us, conditions us to think a certain way. And in us thinking a certain way, we then act a certain way. So that brings us into that paradigm. So we're acting out of that paradigm. It's not that some people might say that's ignorance. Some people might say, whatever it is. But it's how they say, you do what you know kind of thing.
Right.
So I mean, what do you guys think? Is that what it is for adults? Do you feel like they just keep getting beat up?
to be put in a weird way, I'll say a baby doesn't know any better. Sort
I
of.
was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, like when you're young, you don't understand the type of stuff. So as you grow older, life wears on you. So you have a understanding of what failure is, and you feel like you're more prone to that, quote unquote. You can always, obviously, you can persevere and overcome it, but you can always, but a baby doesn't know any of that, doesn't understand that, and just does it whatever they think they need to do at that time to try to
Right.
walk or crawl or whatever it is.
Right. And I also think that the example's a little unfair. I mean, because a baby crawling to walking is really instinctual, whereas someone
True.
giving up on a goal
That's-
is not necessarily like an instinct.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Eventually, the baby's gonna walk.
Yeah.
Sometimes you put in a situation where people kind of do just give up, and they can't because they can't go no more.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna like.
It's not,
That drive is not gonna continue.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting, but I think one of the key components to that is the encouragement or the environment, right?
Yeah.
The paradigm, let's so to speak,
Yeah.
that child is around. So if a parent is constantly trying to pick up the baby and trying to get them to walk,
Yeah.
which is also different where we're adults and we're trying to attain some level of accomplishment and no one's cheering us on. If anything, a lot of people are bringing us down
Yeah.
and hating on
Exactly.
the project or the movement or what you're trying to do.
Yeah,
So I always found that a fascinating example because I don't think it's fair. But I get it's a general concept that because it's not just with crawling. It's like what happens? Why is a little kid so determined to learn how to ride a bike on two wheels or something? It's just that, and I think what I guess it was Gabe. I don't know if you or heck somebody said it was they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
Escape.
I think that's possibly one of the best. And in going into if you go to any new industry, if it's trading the markets, if it's like a small business, if it's for me example, when I learned how to play tennis at Temple University, I didn't know what to expect. I just stopped, or me writing my book, or me putting out that album. People told me, dude, do you realize, like, if I knew what the work was going to entail beforehand, I probably wouldn't have done it. I don't know. I can't say, right?
Yeah.
But I did it out of, not, I guess, basically a form of ignorance. Like, I didn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what just kept me going, because I didn't know how much work it was going to,
Exactly. You don't have the expectations of what goes behind that, so you're just doing it, and you're figuring it out along the way.
Keep doing it until, I guess you fail or something. It's like a little kid climbing on the couch. He keeps climbing on it and jumping. Climbing and jumping until you keep telling them to stop doing that. They're not understanding why you're telling them to stop doing that.
Right.
Until they actually fall.
Deja eso.
Deja eso. But yeah, until they actually understand why you're saying it.
But you always say it's all fun until someone gets poked in the eye or something like that. It's all fun and games
until
until
someone loses an eye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's mad negative thinking.
Yeah.
Because I actually read, part of a book I read was talking about that. Oh, no, it was by author Les Brown. He said his mom talked to him like that. It was always like, go outside and make sure you, I forget what the example was, but it was basically like that. Oh, you're going to get hurt if you guys keep playing rough. It was like, it gave us that negative like outlook, no matter what we're doing, we're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? They kind of put that, whatever. Did you live by that saying, Will? Keep messing around, you're gonna get hurt.
I wouldn't.
Like,
Actually, I don't
you
know.
would
Yeah, I learned from my own experience, and I think it doesn't matter if someone, growing up, if someone told me you keep doing it and you're gonna see what happens. You know what? I don't know what's gonna happen, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
So guess what? It happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that person was definitely right. It did happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, my parents would tell me, hey, you keep doing that, you're gonna hurt yourself. But yeah, I wouldn't hurt myself
Is that?
until
But is that like
you learn by experience.
That's
it.
hysterical.
you learn from experience, and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many times you tell someone, I just wouldn't do that if I were you. Don't do this, don't do that. People are gonna do what they feel is right and what they want to do, and they'll learn from their
Absolutely.
own experience.
Yep.
Exactly.
And kids, like crawling or walking, they're either watching other kids doing it or they have the right support around them
Yes.
to do it and the encouragement. So, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Play
And
with
e-
fire,
even-
you get burnt.
Yeah, and even similar experiences, you can have different outcomes. So
True. That's true. So why do some people persevere and others don't? And now we're talking just people in general outside of the child realm. Do you think this is? I think we touched upon it last week when we were talking about, does hard work pay off? Does this stem from kind of what we're saying? Like, this is what we saw growing up, and it might be that, or some people are just motivated people.
Yeah, I think it's like when you have your mind set on something, you're going to succeed. It even starts as when you're a kid. You want those Jordans, you want them so bad. That's all you think about. You keep telling your parents. Eventually, you're just going to have them. So that's when you're, I don't know, creating something or you have an idea, you just keep doing it, messing with it till you perfect it and it comes true.
Yeah. And the reason why you're doing it is a big motivator in terms of...
Yeah, and that's all, for the most part, that's all you're thinking day in, day
Yeah.
out. And you just want a good outcome.
Yeah,
And then there are some people who's just like, oh yeah, it's a good idea. They try once and that's it. They give up. Like, all right, maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Right. So, Will, you initially said, once I read that definition of perseverance, you said the first word that popped into your mind was determination.
Yes.
Why?
And well, because I thought of myself. In fact, you guys talked about my endeavor academically in episode 6. Never give up.
You got a
Just
list
little-
of episodes where we got it.
Nice.
It's just a little plug, This is from my notes. So basically, yes, determination. In my example, I started from nothing in community college, and I actually went to the same school that Hector went, trade school. I did 3 years, only to find out at the community college that none of my credits would transfer.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, I was already working full time. So why would I want to go through all that? In fact, it was just I was determined to do it for myself, and I said, it's just something you gotta have the drive. You gotta want to do it, and I definitely did not increase my income at all. This was just determination. I persevered through all the challenges, and taking remedial math was not fun at all. But you know what? No one was gonna do it for me. So yeah, when you read that definition, I'm not sure why determination was not in there. Maybe it's a whole different definition. So.
But
So, yeah.
it's interesting, though, because you said determination, and I feel like you're right. That's like a key component to persevere through. And I guess that words could be kind of like interchangeable to some extent. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, you think about the times where... So what Will's talking about in episode 6, we're talking about his little journey on, accomplishing his academic goals or whatever. So he wanted specific degrees and specific concentrations, and he attained them. Ultimately, he reached his goal, and what we were referring back to was the length, the time it took. And then we were also plugging in kind of what he was saying was he had to redo certain classes. He had to retake certain things because obviously certain credits didn't transfer or whatever. So that takes a person who is determined and perseverance, that kind of mentality to do whatever it takes to make it happen.
Well, you also have to. I also keep in mind that I also had the support around me with my wife. She actually went with me, and we met with the advisor, and she actually felt so bad for me. And she said, "I'm so sorry. You have to start all over." And I said, I'm gonna do it. So, again, some people don't have the support around them, and they still have determination. I think that I give them even more kudos. But in my opinion, it's a small scale. But for me, it was a huge accomplishment. But some people look on the outside and be like, hey, other people have done it. Yeah, that's true. But personally, and you guys know me growing up, you guys always make the joke that I was always in school. Well, that's because the first 3 years didn't really count towards community college. So when you guys found out that I was back in school, you're like, geez, that's another 10 years now. So
Yeah, I was in school,
I
but
started in 2010, and then I finally finished up in end of 2015.
yeah, that's awesome.
Good for you.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
do you think
Thank you.
he wants a diploma from Heck? So do you think it's tied to goal setting? So do you think perseverance, and this is to anyone, is
so.
tied to goal setting? Because you said no one was going to stop you. I accomplished my goal. So obviously there was a goal there. But does it have to be something that's in stone per se?
No, I don't think it has to be any goal specific. I think some people, they just persevere through anything. Every day is a struggle, and for me it was just I had particular goals, but some people don't have any specific goals. They're just, they're even living paycheck by paycheck, or they're, constant struggles, but they persevere through all that. They don't give up. They just keep going. And I think that's what this is all about.
Well, obviously you have like an end goal or something. Yeah, I mean, because it can be a generalized thing too. But I think there is generally there is a end goal that you want to do. Whether you have little goals along the way too, but you do like you said, you want a degree or you wanted a barbershop, whatever it is. You still have that end goal, whether along the way.
And it definitely makes it easier when you do have goals set to keep your
look-
mind focused on it. And
Exactly.
you want to, especially like you say, you surround yourself with people who are positive thinkers and are in the same
Yep.
mindset as you. That pushes you to drive as
Absolutely.
for you to fulfill your goals, because they're fulfilling their goals and everyone's moving up. And not that it's like any kind of competition, but everyone wants to succeed at the same time or
Exactly.
succeed at what their goal sets are.
Yeah, so going to that whole, knowing what your goals are, but then Will also said something about, every day is a struggle. And when you said that and kind of going on that like survival mode,
Yeah.
it reminded me of a book. It was like a mandatory reading titled Night, written by Elie Wiesel. I might be butchering the person's name, Ellie, the author. But Night was about his experience with his father in Nazi Germany concentration camps. And he explained this, and he survived, right? He was a survivor, and he wrote about like his experience. So going back to what Will was saying, his only goal was just to survive. He just wanted to just make it out, right?
Yeah.
And in the conditions that these people had to endure just to basically survive, there's not like, oh man, I want to save up to buy a Porsche, right? There's no like, holy crap, I want to endure to get that big, beautiful mansion that, that I want, or buy that beautiful ring for my wife.
Yeah. On the outside looking in, sometimes people don't see the struggle. They just see this, like the success of someone's like, oh my God, he got a big house, he got the car that he wanted. People don't see that daily struggle every day, because most of the time you're so hard working out to get to that point. You don't have time to like complain about it. You're just busy trying to get there. You're trying to do what has to get done on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we talked about before. I don't know what episode it was, but we did talk
Will,
about.
do you know what episode that was, Will? You got it all written down.
Let me. I got a bunch of notes.
the flipping papers.
thumbing through some notes over there. I'm like,
He got a Rolodex.
This dude got pages and pages of notes over there. No, but we talked about looking. I guess it was. I guess the manipulation of image. So when you look at somebody like an athlete, you're talking about an athlete that purposely purchases fake jewelry.
Yeah.
And it was just so he had the image, because in his mind he was saying no one knew what was real and what wasn't real, and there's no way I'm spending 10 grand on a watch or $45,000 on this chain when it looked the same as
at
everyone
his
else.
status. No one was going to question it either.
Yeah, he was a millionaire,
That's
so no one
crazy.
questioned him, and he had all this fake jewelry, fake everything.
Yeah.
But going back on the other end, we just see that and we just say, wow, $45,000 chain, a $10,000 watch. That's awesome. This is great. And he's driving a $250,000 car, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of touching back to what you and Will were kind of talking about. No one saw the struggle though.
Yeah.
You didn't see him doing the workout 6 a.m. You didn't see Will studying late nights and getting up early, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with me putting the album and the book together and stuff like that. Anyone who bought a house, a fixer-upper, knows the daily pain that was of working full time and then after work,
Trying to get it done.
get it done and ripping down sheetrock, and you learn.
Yeah,
Believe
absolutely.
me, whether you want to or not, you're gonna learn something.
Oh,
Like,
you're going to learn today.
Yeah.
It's like you said last week. It was like you only see the end result, like whatever the hour or whatever, like the little
Exactly.
the product it is that is put out. That's all you see. You don't see all the stuff that goes behind it, all the stuff your hours and hours of stuff you're putting into it.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes that's why they say, like, it shouldn't be. You should appreciate the journey, because the journey, the process
Yeah.
is much more longer than the product.
Yeah.
When the product could just be a one thing, and we're like, wow, I busted my butt all that time, all those years for just that one moment, and that was it.
That was it.
Right? So that should go back into, obviously, I talk about in episode 30 about reflecting and stuff.
Yep.
I actually do talk about whatever it takes and making it happen and stuff like that. But doing that little small reflection and actually appreciating the process, I think that's almost like gasoline or juice
Yeah.
to maintain
Yeah.
the perseverance, to
Yeah.
keep the process going, to kick it even further or whatever. So with that being said, what was one of the biggest things any of you guys had to have, persevere or went through to I know, Will, you had talked about, the whole school thing. Was there anything else that it was like a long process that was kind of like, I can't believe that took that long, or I can't believe I held on?
Yeah.
No, it was school was the first thing I thought of. Again, starting from 2009, registering for classes, and then graduating finally 2015 from the university, and just looking back and seeing my family and kids and saying, wow, I did all this, and just like that, I was done. And
Yeah.
like you said, you have to appreciate the journey, because sometimes you can forget along the way who helped you, who was there for you. And as much as my name is on that degree, I love to put everyone who helped me along the way
Yeah.
on that degree. But guess what? They didn't take those classes. I did.
Right.
So
Right.
Oh, okay. He got mad real fast.
Yeah. It was an inside joke for himself.
He was grateful for like 3 whole seconds,
Yeah.
and he got mad. But guess what?
yeah.
But
I
none,
earned
but
it.
none of y'all helped
So-
me. You
Okay.
just told me. Okay.
So
Yeah, that was to me, that was one of the biggest highlights. And knowing that now I'm actually an adjunct instructor for the same community college that gave me the opportunity. There's a lot to be grateful for.
now, is that something that you would eventually tell or talk to your students about if you felt that conversation was necessary or somehow was brought up? Isn't that something where you could use as a little motivator?
Oh yeah, in fact, there were some students, and I did ask the question, anyone graduating this semester, and then I asked if they were going to go to the ceremony, and they said, no, I don't think I'll go to the ceremony. And I had to give a little speech and say, you have to go to the ceremony. Let me tell you, you only get one chance to walk up there and receive your degree. You can't actually repeat it. I know they have proms for, they have these proms for people who didn't go to their prom back in high school.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have re-graduations. Well, let's redo your graduation. They don't have that. So, I told my students, just appreciate the experience and go to the ceremony so your family and your friends and whoever can share the moment. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Is basically what you're saying. So it's like, if you missed it then, there's no, even if it's made up. I mean, even the example you gave that they do these, I guess, like, let's have a prom for the people who didn't make the prom. It's
Yeah.
still not the same.
same.
You know what I'm
it's,
saying?
it's not the same. No.
You're not a kid anymore. You have way more responsibilities. There's
Yep.
things you're thinking about that you weren't thinking about when you're 18 or 17 years
yeah.
old. It's
I-
totally different.
And I told them I'd rather have a, let's say, boring 45-minute ceremony than to not attend at all and look back in the future, say, man, how come I never went?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What was-
at least you gave yourself that opportunity. You gave yourself that experience. So
What was their reasoning for not going? I mean, you went to school, you did all this hard work, and then you don't
And
want
it's-
to go and
it's funny that you asked that question, because when my ceremony was up for the community college, I told my wife, I don't think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna just have
Oh.
them mail my degree. And let me tell you, man, did she give me her opinion about that? And she said, you better go, because it was just a lot of hard work. And she said one thing, you owe it to yourself. And I said,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
owe it to
it's-
myself.
all
and
the
I-
dedication you did and all the hard
exactly.
work you put forth,
It was
and you don't
nice
want to.
seeing my brother, my parents, and sister-in-law and my kids.
They're
and,
proud of you, and you're over there.
I
not wanting to
remember
collect it.
I remember taking a final exam with my first daughter. She was on my lap. I think I was I think I was trying to get her to fall asleep, and I was taking a final exam that was due that night.
You have 2 daughters?
No,
your first?
yeah, you're right. You're right.
His first child.
kid.
Oh, your first child. Okay.
Yeah,
I
my
was
first
just
child.
clarifying.
No,
Persevere.
no, I'm not like you. Not everybody has 20 kids.
Let alone 20 girls.
Yeah.
So and again, that if you guys want to know kind of a history, just listen to episode 6. Never give up.
Yeah, so going back with with what do you
Episode
say?
6 was Wilbur's whole history, his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. We gave a brief bio.
That was
of Will,
Will's
yeah.
bio.
He probably goes back and listens to it all.
Yeah, how many
I-
times have you heard episode 6? Because your name was
I
all
probably
up on
listened
that.
to it about 6 or 7 times.
Holy smokes, dude.
Loved it.
Yeah, and he's probably so mad we left some stuff out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know we left some
Definitely
stuff
left a little
out.
bit of things out.
Well, we don't, because like even okay. So last week we had your brother on, and it was the same thing. Like I was hearing portions of his story that I never knew or never even heard of, and it was just fascinating to me. It's cool. I love listening to people's bios. Actually, right now I'm reading Harry Houdini's biography, and some of the stuff that he's done, and talk about perseverance. Like this guy was set up. Like his whole point in the beginning of his career was to get a gig, right? Once he got a gig, everyone was after him that what he was doing was not real. So he had to constantly prove himself. It even came out, so his whole thing was breaking out of handcuffs. This is like in the beginning.
Yeah.
And all he had was like a blanket or something covering him, what he did. And he would put on these acts, and they're saying, "Oh, your handcuffs are rigged, right? And you got real cheap, ones that anyone could break out of." So then he would basically have to do this to every show until he proved himself, because they wouldn't believe him. They had police officers coming from out of nowhere in the crowd and saying, "Use my handcuffs." They're constantly challenging him. Yeah. And he got out of every single one.
Wow.
Well, then once he, made somewhat of a name here, he went to, overseas. I forget specifically where he went, but then it was like he had to do the same thing over again,
Oh, man.
kind of explain himself and prove himself day in and day out. And it eventually paid off, obviously, because everyone knows Harry Houdini, right?
Absolutely.
And he was just a guy who initially was breaking out of handcuffs.
Yeah.
And
That's where he started from, was just breaking out of handcuffs?
yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff, how he got started. He saw like a magician live, and it just intrigued him from there. So then he saved up all his, he did like little part-time jobs or whatever, saved up his money, and bought his first like little magic kit or something like that. So it started off like that, but he wanted to do something that no one was really doing. So that's where the whole handcuff thing, yeah. And then eventually, ultimately, his demise, because he got so risky in his stunts that he was like going underwater, caged up in like different kinds of stuff, buried alive, and he was always trying to make himself bigger than what he was. But that was just because he wanted to be known. A lot of his stuff was crap. Like half of his bio, like you have to read this bio because he made up his own life. Like he told people he was from places that he wasn't from. He said he came from a wealthy family. He came from like a very broke family. So like his whole thing was like this manipulate. Yeah. So he was constantly trying to do it, but in that industry, that's what you have to do.
Right.
But yeah, talking about perseverance. I'm not even finished the book. I'm like halfway through, and it's very, very, very interesting. But even then, kind of like what Will was talking about, his wife going with him and sitting in and basically feeling bad when that he was told that he had to take all those classes over again, and even when she told him you have to walk. That Harry Houdini had his wife with him. She was part of the act. It's kind of the same thing. It's like people don't realize him, but she was also on stage with him, everything that he did.
Yeah.
But Harry Houdini, you know what I'm
Right,
saying?
yeah.
So like it wasn't like he did this by himself. He was constantly practicing with her. He was constantly studying, but she was there. She was kind of like the anchor, I guess, so to speak. And when they say like opposites attract, right? This also popped in my mind. Opposites attract for specific reasons. It's because they're filling a void that we didn't even know we had sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they said the saddest part in a diminished marriage is when both people give up on the same day. Because normally how it happens, everyone who's been in a relationship for a week is one day you're just like, you know what, screw this, I'm not.
Yeah.
And that person's the opposite. Like, come on, we can work through it. We just gotta blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
When both people say screw it and walk away, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
But that's just going back to, you know, when you're going through stuff, that's why you have that support system. That's why we can persevere through things, because at times we do. Everyone here can't say did not want to quit on something, not want to quit on something. And we had a conversation with somebody or had a realization with something. You either saw something on TV, had a quick discussion. Maybe it was just looking into your child's eyes, but something was reminding us why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I believe I do kind of, you know, tie goal setting with perseverance, but ultimately knowing your why you're doing it. We talk about this all the time. That's the gasoline. That's the fire. That's what's going to keep us going. Why in the world are you doing this? Yeah, let's be honest. 95% of the people don't even want to go to work with somebody they can't stand. You know that old saying, right? Yep. And why are you doing that? Do people even stop and question themselves? Because that's a terrible way of persevering through something. Yeah. Because you're persevering through hell every single day. And I guess it just goes back to that, you know, what Will was saying, that I guess that's just survival. Like, I don't even know. That people work 5 days to live for 2. I mean, it's sad when you actually think about it. Not in America. You shouldn't be doing that. Not in America. You know what I'm saying? It's not, we're a developed country that you should be able to, pick and choose how you want to conduct your life and ultimately your destiny. Don't not be trapped in this thing like you have to do that. No one's forcing you. Oh, well, I got bills to pay. You made those decisions. What you're doing now is paying for the poor decisions you made earlier in life. Yeah. And once you do that, set yourself up to become a better person. Don't just keep. It's like Will kept going to get that diploma. He didn't want to live a certain life, and not saying it was, because then he was saying it wasn't even for a pay raise or a pay, you know, increase or whatever, but he was doing it for himself. And what that does is set his children up. His daughter may or may not remember sitting on his lap while he was taking that final exam. But now both of his kids have 2 parents with college degrees, and that is now they can stand on the shoulders of their parents. How we always talk about, you can stand on the shoulders of giants. Will and his wife Marisol are giants for, metaphorically, for their children.
Kids, yeah.
All right, you know what, Will? How about you kind of talk about what this thing was with your Porsche, not what happened as of the most current thing. Just talk about I guess whenever it was, as a child, teenager, whatever, when you saw the first one or you wanted the first one. Because honestly, it's a cool. I think it's cool.
That's a cool hat.
You actually ended up getting, you know, one of your dreams, attaining one of your dreams at to what I would consider a young age.
Yeah.
How many dream cars did you have, first of all?
I'm sorry?
How many dream cars have you had as a child, and how many of them did you actually
I mean, he was always knocking them back because he had the 5.9.
He had the Mustang, right? That's what I'm saying. One was. Yeah, go ahead, Will. You tell the story. You know better than me.
Actually, at different stages of my life, I've always wanted different things. I've always wanted the 93 Cobra. So then I had, you know, the Mustang, but it wasn't the 93 Cobra. But anyway, going back to the Porsche thing, it was at my brother's wedding that I saw a 996 Turbo in a parking lot. And, you know, I've always saw them in posters and movies, and, you know, the 993 Turbo was the iconic body style. When I saw the 996 Turbo in the parking lot, I literally told myself, I said, one day I will have that turbo. And I actually, during the wedding, I asked my brother, who drives that thing? Meanwhile, he's trying to focus on his wedding.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out who's the person,
who's the animal that owns that. Yeah.
Yeah, with the 996 Turbo. So, and you know, so 10 years or even more than that, I just kept waiting. I said, you know, one of these days I will get it. And I did. I eventually got the 997 Turbo, and it's just a generation newer than a 996. But, you know, to me, it was just a personal thing. It's funny because you get very humbled quickly when you get around other people that say, oh, yeah, I have that. I use that as a daily driver. And I also have a GT2 and a GT3 for the track, and I'm like, geez, here I am, just
Yeah.
happy to have one, and there's people that have two or three or even more.
Yeah.
In fact, I will be visiting a collector. I think he has over 100 Porsches in a warehouse that
Wow.
we're gonna that I'm gonna have a tour, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the brand. I appreciate everything about it. So it's just, for me, it was a big deal. But you ask other people, they're like, oh my uncle has three of them, or oh yeah, I know someone with a Ferrari, or yeah, that's great. But for me, it was just you guys know me. The people who know me are not really surprised that I even got one. Miguel, were you really surprised?
No,
Not
I actually caught me off guard when you told me you got one. I wasn't expecting it at the time, but yeah, I eventually I knew you were gonna get one.
Yeah, I knew.
Yeah, so,
I knew he was gonna get one. It's kind of like the same thing.
I won't be surprised when I see the second one though, because the way you're talking, like everybody has two. Now I know you have two. You're gonna have one for the track.
Or you could also
No.
get like like the SUV or something. But anyway, so going back to what he was saying, I expected him to, because he will got basically, or does whatever he's
Yeah.
say he's gonna do.
He
or
follows
whatever.
through with what he
Right,
says,
he follows
yeah.
through. I think what was fascinating to me was how fast he got it, because you're saying it was like what? Well, I guess that was 14 years ago. Now, we know now that was 14 years ago because Gilbert was on here last week and told us he's been married for 14 years.
Yeah.
So, but I remember for your honeymoon, you rented a Porsche, right?
I did.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was at a bed and breakfast. In fact, the car that I ended up buying, I wasn't old enough to actually rent it, and nor could I afford it to rent it for 2 days. So,
Wow.
yeah, and I told my wife, I said, I just have to rent one. So it was kind of she and we both enjoyed the bed and breakfast, and across the street, they had a lineup of the cars for you to rent. So, it's just a great experience. I enjoy it, So it's just it's just a me thing,
So what would you say to the kid who wants, whose goal is to eventually have an exotic car or just something else? It doesn't have to be a car, because not one of all of our listeners are car enthusiasts, but something that is big, where it blew your mind when you first saw that Porsche sitting in the parking lot 14 years ago to now.
It's just you just don't give up, don't settle either. I'm a type of guy or type of person that I'd rather not settle and just wait. If I have to wait 10 years to get something that, I definitely do not need, it's a want thing, then why not wait? So
Right.
there's,
Yeah.
so to the person who's inspiring to have something or do something, just wait it out, but keep chipping at it, and sooner or later you'll get there. So you just have to set yourself up and set your goals up, and back to the definition, you got to be persistent, you got to have a purpose and just stick with it. I think we all have done that in a certain aspect of just sticking with it.
Yeah, and I like what you said there. Basically, you put value, because you said it's a me thing, right?
Yes.
Because not everybody wants
Yeah.
what you want, and not everyone wants
Exactly.
what I want. But it was a me thing, and you put value on it, saying that you waited to get it. Well, if it's going to take me 10 years, I'm going to wait the 10 years. That you don't settle. That me and Heck talk about this all the time, never settling, and getting what you want. Because otherwise, what's the point? The one time you settle, me and Gabe talk about how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're just like lazy in goal setting, or you're just like brutal on how you even approach life, you're just like, oh, whatever, I don't care. You're just like mumbling around all floppy hand, and just like, it's almost depressing seeing people like that. It's like, dude, you mean to tell me you never got something you actually wanted? How sad is it for your whole life that you're constantly just settled? You just settled for your spouse. You settled for your house. You settled for your car. You settled for your career. Dude, that's depressing just thinking about that.
But I also keep it. You also have to keep it kind of realistic. I wasn't gonna say, well, I'm gonna wait until I can afford a 918 Spider. Well, that's over $1 million.
Yeah.
If I really said to myself, I'm not gonna get anything until I, get in a position, then I honestly will have to buy lottery tickets. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the only way.
Yeah, right.
So again, you have to set realistic goals, but not sell yourself short at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to be somewhat realistic too. So that's kind of that's my take on it.
So going from the $1 million thing, say, so you're saying eventually you could get the $1 million car, but start somewhere.
Yeah, but even then, I just wouldn't. That's not a me thing to drive a
There'll be other
$1 million
things.
car.
There'll be other things for you to
Yes.
get before getting that $1 million.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
not
Yeah,
even.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. I meant not you as in Will wanting
Oh.
that. I'm just saying like a person in general. Say that was their goal, right? Or was
sorry.
was that $1 million car? That wouldn't be my thing.
Yeah.
But let's just say it is. Let's just put it into terms of it is this overwhelming, huge goal, and you're just saying like make progress along the way instead of just
Yeah, well, it's like anything. You just take those baby steps. You start crawling, then you walk. So
Yeah.
you got to get whatever steps there are in between that major goal.
yeah.
It's kind of
Unless, like
did,
you said,
though.
unless like well, yeah, exactly. Unless you hit the lottery, so you buy your first house, it might be a fixer upper, and then you'll get something bigger. Then hopefully you get something bigger, and then you'll probably get the mansion or whatever, if that's in your goals.
It's
Just
very
work your way up
relative
there.
to it's relative to who you are and who you want to be. It's there is no definition. I mean, my goal can be bigger or smaller than yours, but that's up to me to define it, not anyone else.
Oh, so did you have like pictures anywhere? Did you draw? Did you doodle Porsche emblems on your notepads while, in the middle of a conference?
Nope.
You just set it and let it go?
No, the thing is, the reason why I didn't have the posters, in fact, I never even like going to the car shows because I would see one and I would just get too, not down, but like, man, I really want one. And, and I kept that to myself. I didn't doodle. I didn't have posters, because I felt that the more posters I had, it felt more unrealistic. You put a poster of some model, the chances of you dating her or him, it's slim to none.
Yeah.
So
True.
to me, I looked at it that way. Like, why am I going to have posters? It's just something I kept to myself. So I told a couple people to say, oh, one day I'll have my Porsche, and they'll just laugh. But that's okay. I didn't have to explain. I mean, really, you shouldn't have to explain to anyone. This is it's just a self.
This is you.
Just-
This is who you are.
It's just a me thing. That's right, Hector. Man.
But that's an interesting version of instead of like the dream board type thing.
Yeah.
It's like the reverse of that. It's like instead
Yeah.
of dream board is almost a discouragement as opposed to
Yeah.
an encouragement.
Right. So, but it's how he views it, though.
Yeah.
Like he said before, it's like a personal thing. So,
Yeah.
so he views it as that's unattainable. If it's there, if it's in a magazine, or if it's in a what's it called, that makes me feel like I can't have it. It's
Yeah.
so high on a pedestal that it's
Exactly.
unattainable. Like it's I can't reach that. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But some people view it differently. So some people would view it and say, like, look, it's right in front of my face. I can see it. I can
Yeah.
have it, and it's a constant reminder. So it really depends on. That's what they say. It's almost like people's diets and career paths. You have to tailor it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to manipulate life and set goals to how you are. You have to know your personality. The biggest quote, and it's 2 words ever known to man, and it's the deepest, most philosophical thing you could probably hear. Is called "Know Thyself."
Yeah.
Right? It's only 2 words. If you don't know yourself, how are you going to teach your kids? How are you going to communicate with your wife? How are you going to communicate with the world? How are you
Yeah.
going to live effectively as a human being? So you need to know who you are. He knew that about himself, right?
Right.
He knew he was going to persevere to get that diploma. He knew he was going to persevere to one day attain his goal of purchasing his dream car, or one of his dream cars.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to put this Will into like this is all his life is consumed by. That was me asking this question for him to talk about the Porsche. he has a full-time job and has a beautiful family. I'm not saying like his whole life revolves around a car and that's all he lives for, but I was just saying how he attained it was interesting to me. And then again, I didn't know that's how his outlook was of not having, images and stuff, but he knew himself enough to operate in that way. So Will, your kids see this car parked in the garage, right?
No, I live in it. I live in the car. I don't...
How do you explain that car to your kids? Like, because they see that you don't drive it every day. So what do you tell them? Because it's going to kind of lead into my next question.
Well, I don't. I just tell them they know that I love cars. They know that, and the way that they see it, they just want me to go past every car. And I have to explain to them, this is how you get speeding tickets. And the more then I won't be able to take you guys to school. And then, I will lose my license. So that's the way they see it. And I like to keep it that way. They just see it as a fun car. And it's funny because if me and my wife meet somewhere and I'm in my other car, or she's in her car, and I ask, hey, who wants to go with me or mommy? They both say mommy. But if I had the other car, they'll both say, "Oh no, we'll go with Daddy." I say, "Well, that's messed up." So sometimes, so really, I don't really get into detail. I just they just see it as a fun car. I don't. I haven't really said if you work hard, you'll get this, because then they may think that so if I work hard, this is the only thing that I can get. No, it's just I don't know if they're ready to understand that.
Yeah, and I think that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, you teach your kids to the appropriate level of where they are, and
exactly.
And obviously, it's not ultimately working hard and stuff like that isn't for materialistic goals.
Exactly.
When inside the bigger goal I think was achieved is proving to yourself that you could get what you want. You can, and that was that's the Porsche that's tattooed on the inside that no one will ever see, but makes you a better person inside, knowing that, you know what, I shut all those guys up, all those people who doubted me. I proved to myself that I can set a goal and accomplish it. I proved to myself that I attained at one point was probably I thought was impossible. Yeah. It's all those things. For Goose, I would assume it's kind of the same thing when you open up your own barbershop, or you don't even have probably never even thought of it as a kid, and then eventually it developed into into something like whatever. But is there a way to teach kids perseverance, or is it just showing them?
Honestly, I think it's just like showing them. Everyone's gonna deal with things differently. Yeah. Like we were talking about, Will's goals were different than your goals, than everyone's. So it's just
like lead by example.
Yeah, and people like they challenge themselves differently, and people accomplish things differently, different paces, faster and slower than others. So there's no like, oh, you have to get this done around this time so you can get this. Like Will, he had a decent job, still went to school, had a wife, kids, got the house suitable for his family. Then he worked on his personal thing. It wasn't like, oh, I got the car and was selfish and got this and bought a 2-seater car where his kid has kids that don't fit in. I mean, we mess with him all the time, but it's true. Like, he makes sure his family's set. They have family cars. They have the house that's suitable for the kids or whatever. Then he got what his goal was.
Yeah.
So everyone works differently. Everyone's like, we're probably all working on our next like goal right now.
Absolutely.
So
it reminds me of the classic Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, "What you do speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say." And that's something that it's true. It's a true testament. In my book, there's a chapter about my dad, and I talk about his work ethic, and then I also talk about him never complaining about working so hard. Yeah. There's a difference between someone who works so hard and you're like, wow, I respect that, to someone who works so hard and are constantly, oh my gosh, I just worked so hard today. I got a headache, my feet hurt, my shoulders hurt, like just constantly complaining about it, where he never said anything about the work, right? Yeah. The actual work. We just knew he worked hard. And it was one day, the story in the book, I'll just kind of explain it briefly, was I had possibly one of the worst days like at work, and it was just everything went wrong. It was no one person's fault. It just everything happened all at once. Meetings got canceled. For some reason, I wasn't making it happen, and it just was frustrating the living crap out of myself. And I was just driving home after one of my bad days at work, whatever. I'm just driving home thinking to myself like, oh my gosh, dude, I hope tomorrow's not going to be like that. I got to make sure tomorrow's that was terrible. That was the longest 8 hours ever. So I pull up to the driveway and my wife is already home, and I get into the car, or I get out of the car and I walk in, and I remember before I got out of the car, I told myself like, don't bring that bad day into the house. It's not their fault. It's not no one's fault. It just, that's the way sometimes it pans out or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I said, just, let's be happy. Let's just whatever. So I was, because I know thyself. I know if I just carry that on, I'm just going to put it on, other people. So I walk in the house. As soon as I walk in the house, my son comes running up to me. He's like, Dadu. And we just gave me a big hug, whatever. And Kelly's in the kitchen laughing because what he just said, Dadu. We always laugh when he said that. And I pick him up, and I drop my briefcase. I walk into the kitchen, and like Kelly's making like my favorite dish. She's making the chicken, rice, beans. I'm like, yes. And I just sat down, and we had dinner and had a fantastic night or whatever. And I finished up, what we were doing in the kitchen. We were like talking, having coffee, whatever. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go take a shower. I'm beat. So I put my son down. I grab my briefcase, and I'm coming into my office. To put my stuff away or whatever. And when I open the door, the first picture as soon as you see when you walk in is a old school picture of my dad. Will, you see it up there right above Heck?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
It was my dad, probably like 13, 14 years old, and boom, it all hit me. And I just got like watery eyed and all whatever, because I'm like, wow, I wonder how many terrible days my dad had that we did not know.
Yeah.
Because my son would never know that day.
Yeah.
Right? He just saw me as happy, and I came in, wouldn't know. I didn't even say anything to my wife. She didn't even know. She just thought I had a fantastic day too.
Yeah.
And then when you think about that, it really is what you show. And I never talked about it. I never whatever. It was like, oh yeah, today was all right, not bad. In the back of my mind, like there's steam kind of in my ears, but I showed them, through in that manner, and I do think it's something you show. I'm sure you can explain to your kids, and kind of like what Will was saying, it depends on their age. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to read to my 2-year-old son the definition of perseverance.
Yeah.
Heck would.
Yeah, Heck would, definitely.
Yeah.
But it'll take them probably 2 hours to go to each kid.
Oh, man. All right, so moving right along to the final segment titled, What Would You Do? All right, what would you do if you tried to figure a new way to accomplish your goal for the 999th time and failed? Can you honestly say you would give it the 1,000th time a whirl? So where this is coming from is according to some people, it took Thomas Edison over 10,000 tries/ways to invent the U.S. light bulb. Some said he had some help from other scientists by doing this. And then I'll follow up with the quote from Thomas Edison. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work.
He saw the brighter picture in it, like it was...
Literally.
No pun intended.
But also, he understood the importance of what he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
so I think that makes a difference too. He was determined, whether if it took 10,000 or 20,000 ways to do it. I mean, it's the U.S. light bulb, so look, we still use it till this day.
Exactly. But I mean, that's the thing. It matters like if you know what you want, it doesn't matter how many times you're gonna try. I mean, the 900th time doesn't. You're probably not even counting at that point, but you're gonna keep doing it anyway.
Yeah, and I thought his outlook on it was fascinating. He said he didn't fail.
Yeah.
True.
No,
You know what I mean? Like when you think about it, it's like, dude, people would say that you failed. You're a failure. Spent 10,000 times. Come on. I even dropped it by 90%. I said 900 times if you tried. And would you try?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. Some people won't even try 9 times.
Yeah, true.
Matt,
But
to
that was
hit
like
the
me,
10.
my driver's license. I
You
failed.
persevered, heck, man.
I failed like 9 times, but that 10th time, I had to get that permit.
The people taking you persevere just to.
Some
Well,
people
yeah.
gave up on you.
Some people gave up on me. I didn't give up on me. I mean, I was 24 when I
well,
got my
because
license.
you didn't
but
you didn't
Nope.
take it serious, so they gave up on
And
you.
I was not letting you drive my car.
Yeah.
don't
so
know.
so
am I?
could you honestly say you would give?
If your
The-
goal was strong enough, sure.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep going no matter what.
Yeah, I guess how deep
If,
your
yeah,
desire.
if you know
Yeah,
it's
if you know-
possible,
yeah.
yeah.
It's like going back to like the why. If you know your why, it doesn't matter how many times.
And you know you're you.
But what's mind blowing about that, I don't think he knew it was possible. You know what I'm saying? Like he invented something, so it's like you don't even know if this is even possible, and
true.
you keep trying. You know what I'm saying? Like Will knows people or knew people who had diplomas or who owned the Porsche, so he knew it was possible. So he's just doing it. Can he do it?
Yeah.
He's
Right.
inventing something. We don't even know if it's possible, and he keeps trying. You know what I mean? They say there's a thin line between insanity and genius. And he was tinkering between there, seriously,
I
because
think
you got to be
insanity
somewhat
is
of
genius, though.
nuts. Yeah, some people say
think
it's
it
a form
is.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't say, and it's kind of, I guess it's what Gabe is saying. It goes back to it. How deep is your desire?
Right.
Napoleon Hill wrote a book like 16 Lessons to Success or whatever, and in it, Andrew Carnegie hired Napoleon Hill to come up with. Andrew Carnegie was back in the late 1800s to early 1900s was the steel king, and at one
Yeah.
point was the wealthiest man in the planet. And he hired Napoleon Hill to study successful people. He had friends like John D. Rockefeller and Henry Ford, and he hired them to see if there was a common thread in successful people. These guys were the billionaires of their time, and they found traits and characteristics. And finally, after 20 years of studying successful people, he came out with this book, 16 Lessons of Ultimate Success or something like that. But he then put it into Think and Grow Rich, which is a very watered down version of the real deal. So
Yeah.
you're not even really getting anything out of,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know that. But anyway, so one of them was titled Burning Desire. You have to have a burning desire. Like, no matter what it takes, I'm going to get this. I don't care if it'll be the death of me. I will get this. I will succeed at attaining whatever my ultimate goal is or whatever it is. So burning desire is that person who does it 10,000 times or that passes that 999th time or whatever.
Right.
It's hard to see people get it easy, Will. Like you were talking about, you knew somebody, you just got your first Porsche and somebody's talking about like this, they're on their third or whatever. I talked about this when I was at Temple University studying. I had to study. Like I actually had to work to earn my grades. Some people just are naturally gifted and knew how to
Yeah.
take tests and were just intelligent people. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm just not, dude. I have to work hard with stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I was determined there was no way in hell that person was going to get a degree and I wasn't. Because I worked so hard for it. I'm like, there's no way. You're not better than me. I'm not better than you, but you're definitely not better than me.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, a competitive edge, burning desire, whatever that was. But yeah.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, when you guys walked down the aisle, no one knew who worked harder than
Exactly.
someone else. You guys both got the same thing.
Exactly. And I remember going back to what Will was saying, where one of his students said they potentially were not going to walk
Yeah.
for their ceremony, and Will as well. That never crossed my mind, but I remember walking into, I graduated at Temple University, so we're in the Leocore Center. This place was massive, right?
Yeah.
I walk in and there's thousands and thousands of people. And I look up and spot it, like my family, like in the, in the bleachers or whatever it was in the
Yeah.
seats. And I felt everything was worth it. Just right there, just seeing everyone standing up and cheering, you're just looking up. And
Yeah.
Ava was like a baby.
Yeah, she was
My grandma was
freshly
there.
born.
My aunt was there. My parents. I mean, it was so just that one little moment though. I remember just like looking up. I'm like, I don't care. Like you said, Will, it's a boring ceremony. It really is. There's nothing fun about the actual ceremony until your name gets called and your family gets to see you walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're just sitting there like, and you're cheering on a couple of your classmates, but there's so many people you don't even know 95% of the people there.
Yeah.
That is true.
But it's definitely worth it. Going back to perseverance, it is having a burning desire. It is knowing your why. That's the gasoline that's going to fuel you. That's the gasoline that fueled Will to get, attain his accomplishments, and all of us here. And we continue to grow. Will, I'm sure, has, new goals for other things that he wants to attain.
More school.
More school. I don't know. Is more school in the bucket list there, buddy?
He's teaching now, so.
Not at this time. No, grad school. I have thought of it, but not right now.
Yeah.
Good for you. You're gonna enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, I have to. It was a lot of years of back-to-back semesters. Keep in mind, I only took one semester off.
Yeah,
so.
But you still accomplished within 5 years, 5-6 years. I mean, you say you started in 09 and you were done in 15.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still good,
I just went into overdrive when I got to the university.
Everything doesn't have to be about a car, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah, overdrive.
Yeah, I put it in the 6th gear, and then I dropped it to 4th.
All right, cool. So that wraps up this episode titled Perseverance. I'm going to read the last two quotes, one by John D. Rockefeller and Newt Gingrich. So the first one is by Newt, and he says, perseverance is the hard work you do after you get tired of doing the hard work you already did. I love that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's called grinding. That's grinding,
really,
boy.
really good.
That's hustling right
Reminds me of
there.
Will.
Everything. That's Will in overdrive.
That's Will. Will, is that all-wheel drive or rear wheel?
That's two-wheel.
Two-wheel drive. All right.
One in the front,
What is it,
one
the
in
driver's
back.
side or the passenger
One in the
side?
front, one in the back.
Yeah, no, yeah, driver's side or passenger?
Oh my goodness, Jim, get to the next.
Yeah.
And the last quote is by John D. Rockefeller. I do not think that there is any other quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. It overcomes almost everything, even nature. Wow, that's a bold statement. That's wild. So anyway, this episode was titled Perseverance. In this episode, we discussed why some people persevere and others don't. Our stories of perseverance. We discuss whether or not perseverance is connected to goal setting, how to teach our kids perseverance and its value, and our outlook on continuing the path to accomplishing our goals. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Newt Gingrich and John D. Rockefeller. And, of course, we had our beautiful, friendly family friend Will Rodriguez joined us today. Thank you, Will. We appreciate you.
No, thank you guys for having me on. I support what you guys do. I have listened to every episode. And by the way, Jim, I know you said that when people drive and listen, they're not actually listening. Yeah. No, I actually do listen on Bluetooth. So,
there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, so yeah, no, keep up the good work. I enjoy the show, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you for joining us, and there you have it. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.